What if every worry you had, every single mistake, every sad memory that you carry around inside you, what if it had a physical weight? Imagine for a moment that each one was a small stone. And you had to put that stone into a bag and carry it with you every single day. How heavy would your bag be? In a land not so different from our own, there was a place called the Village of Burdens. It wasn't its real name, of course, but everyone knew it by this name. In this village, everyone carried a bag. From the time they were children and made their first real mistake, they were given a small cloth pouch. And for every regret, every harsh word they wished they could take back, every secret sadness, they would find a stone and place it inside. Over the years, the small pouches became large, heavy sacks. The people of the village walked slowly. Their shoulders hurt, and their backs were bent. They couldn't run, or jump, or dance. The weight they carried was a constant reminder of their past. A young traveler was passing through this village. His name was Leo. Leo's bag was particularly heavy for someone so young. It was made of thick, dark leather, and it was so full of stones that the seams were stretching. The strap cut deeply into his shoulder. Every step was an effort. He walked with his head down, his eyes fixed on the dusty road, just trying to put one foot in front of the other. He saw an old man sitting by a well. The man's sack was enormous, bigger than any Leo had ever seen. He was bent almost double, like a tree in a strong wind. Leo paused, catching his breath. He looked at the old man and then at his own heavy bag. "Does it ever get lighter?" Leo asked, his voice tired. The old man looked up slowly. His eyes were kind, but full of a deep sadness. He shook his head. "No, son. The bag only gets heavier. We just get used to the weight." This answer gave Leo no hope. He could not accept that this was his future. He didn't want to just get used to the pain. He wanted to be free of it. He continued his journey, but the old man's words were like another stone added to his bag. Later that day, as he sat eating a small piece of bread, he heard two women talking. They spoke in quiet voices, but Leo listened carefully. They spoke of a wise woman who lived alone by the great river, a few hours' walk from the village. They said this woman carried no bag. Not a big one, not a small one, no bag at all. Leo was skeptical. How was that possible? Did she never make a mistake? Did she have no sad memories? It seemed impossible, but a small piece of hope, tiny but bright, began to grow in his heart. The possibility of living without this terrible weight was too tempting to ignore. He had to find her. The next morning he left the village and followed the path they described. The journey to the river was difficult. The path was steep and rocky, and his heavy bag made him feel clumsy and off balance. Several times he stumbled, the stones in his bag making a loud, unpleasant noise as they hit each other. He grew angry at the bag, at the stones, at himself for collecting so many. He wanted to throw the whole thing down a cliff, but he couldn't. The bag was a part of him. Or so he believed. Finally, after hours of difficult walking, he heard it, the gentle sound of moving water. He pushed through some tall reeds and saw it, the great river. It flowed wide and calm, sparkling in the afternoon sun. And sitting on a large, flat rock by the water's edge was a woman. She was older, with lines on her face that looked more like laugh lines than worry lines. And it was true. She had no bag. She was mending a fishing net, her hands moving with skill and ease. She seemed light, peaceful, Leo walked toward her slowly, afraid to disturb the quiet. She looked up as he approached, and she smiled. It was a warm, welcoming smile. "You've come a long way," she said, her voice as calm as the river. "Your bag looks very heavy. Please, sit and rest." Leo carefully lowered his sack to the ground. It made a loud thud. He felt an immediate sense of relief, just putting it down for a moment. He sat on the grass near her. He was so tired he didn't know what to say. He just watched her for a few minutes. She finished mending her net. Then she reached down into the shallow water near the bank and picked up a stone. It wasn't an ugly, sharp stone like the ones in his bag. It was smooth and gray, shaped by the river's current. She held it in the palm of her hand, looking at it closely, turning it over and over. She seemed to be thinking. Then, with a simple, graceful movement, she tossed the stone back into the middle of the river. It made a small plop and disappeared. Leo finally found his voice. Why don't you have a bag?" he asked. "Everyone has a bag." The woman smiled again. "Oh, I find stones all the time," she said. "Just now, I was thinking about a problem with my boat. It was a heavy thought, a worry. That was my stone for this moment." She pointed to the river. "I picked it up. I looked at it. I understood it. I thought about what I needed to do to fix the boat. And then I let it go." Leo was confused. "You just let it go? But what about your mistakes, your regrets, the things you cannot fix?" The woman's expression became more serious, but still kind. "Those are the heaviest stones, aren't they?" she said softly. "Many years ago, I had a bag just like yours. It was so heavy I could barely walk. One day, I fell near this very river, and I could not get up. I lay there for a long time, trapped by my own past. And I realized something. Carrying the stone that represents a mistake does not undo the mistake. Carrying the stone of a sad memory does not bring back what was lost. The weight only hurts me, here, now. It steals my strength for today." She looked at Leo's bag. "The journey of life is long. To carry every stone from the start of the path to the very end, it's too much for anyone. The secret isn't to avoid finding stones. Life will always give us stones. The secret is to learn not to put them in the bag." Leo looked from her peaceful face to his own ugly, heavy sack. He thought about what was inside. A large, dark gray stone for the angry words he said to his friend, a friendship he lost. A sharp, jagged rock for the time he was dishonest and was caught. Dozens of smaller pebbles for small anxieties and daily fears. They were all in there. "How?" Leo whispered. "How do you learn to let them go?" The wise woman pointed to his bag. "Open it. Just choose one stone." "Any stone? You don't have to tell me what it is. Just hold it in your hand." Leo hesitated. It felt wrong, like exposing a secret. But he reached into the leather sack, and his fingers closed around a familiar stone. It was large and had a rough, uncomfortable texture. He had carried it for 3 years. It represented a huge failure, an opportunity he had missed because he was afraid. He pulled it out and held it in his palm. It felt heavy, colder than the air. "Now," the woman said gently, "look at it. Don't turn away from it. Remember the moment it came from. Remember the lesson you learned from it. What did that mistake teach you?" Leo closed his eyes. He thought about the fear that had held him back. He thought about the regret that followed. But then he thought about what happened after. Because of that failure, He learned to be more brave. He learned to take more chances. The failure itself was in the past. It was over. But the lesson was part of him now. He had already learned from it. So why was he still carrying the weight of the original event? He opened his eyes and looked at the ugly stone in his hand. For the first time, he saw it not just as a symbol of failure, but as a symbol of a hard-won lesson. He took a deep, shaky breath. He stood up, walked to the edge of the river, and, copying the woman's movement, he threw the stone with all his strength. It flew through the air and landed in the deep water with a loud splash. And it was gone. He stood there for a long moment. He didn't suddenly feel perfectly light, but he felt a change. A real, noticeable change. The strap of his bag felt just a tiny bit looser on his shoulder. A small space was now empty inside the sack. He turned back to the woman. Tears were in his eyes, but he was smiling. He understood. He didn't need to say anything. She simply nodded. Leo stayed by the river for the rest of the day, not talking much, but watching the water. Before the sun set, he reached into his bag one more time. He chose a smaller, sharper stone. He held it, remembered, understood its lesson, and let it go into the water. The next morning, Leo lifted his bag. It was still heavy, very heavy, but it was not as heavy as before, and for the first time, he felt he had control. He knew he wouldn't empty the bag in one day, or even 1 week, maybe never, but he also knew he didn't have to. The journey ahead was still long, but now, he walked with his head held a little higher. His steps felt a little stronger. He carried not just a bag of stones, but also a powerful new knowledge. We all collect stones on our journey, but we can choose which ones we carry with us and which ones we decide to leave behind.